Well, hi, and welcome to Trick or Treat. My name is Mike Maione. I am your host, and we have a fantastic, fun show planned for you today. We have some great little silly things to share with you. We have Randy Shine from Philadelphia, a fantastic magician who's going to share some of his experiences as a performer, in a lifetime of performances around the world. He's going to share some of his experiences with us. We have, of course, our mentalist back from the dead. Alexander's going to come and say hello and try and fool you, try and read your mind. That's what he's going to do, courtesy of Joe Silkie, and some fun. So let's get on with it. And the first item, which we do on all of our show, is a little bit of
Fact or fake news, fact or fake news, fact or fake news.
Yes, we have some fact or fake news information to share with you. Your job, of course, is to determine whether or not what I'm going to present to you in the next moment is a fact or if it's just fake news. Here it is. Are you ready? Here is the fake news or fact statement. The Society of American Magicians is the oldest magic society in the world. So the question is that fact or is it fake news? You'll have to stay tuned to find out. We'll tell you at the end of the show, of course. You can always Google it if you're impatient. We hope you're not. Speaking of the Society of American Magicians, I wanted to share this with you because I just saw this week, and I'm thrilled about it. This is in the latest issue of the MUM, which is the magazine of the Society of American Magicians, is a review of my book test, Celebrity Presage, and it's just fell out of the sleeve, but it's a fun book test, and I just want to read the line that the reviewer put in it. He says, the review, by the way, was Master Payne, and he says this is his go-to book test, and he's ordering a second copy because he's going to wear this one out. So it was a great book review, a great product review. I hope that if you're in the market for a book test, you will check my website out and pick up a copy of Celebrity Presage. Oh, that was actually the French version I showed you, but you don't want that one probably. So let's go on. We have a special guest, of course. We always have a special guest from the dead. He comes back to life. He's going to read your mind, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, by the way, you're going to have to do a little bit of arithmetic here. So if you're not quick with numbers, I'm not. You may want a pencil and a paper or have your calculator handy because a little bit of arithmetic is coming your way.
Greetings, friends. I am Alexander, the man who knows. I am going to attempt to read your mind. I have searched the world for mysteries to present to you. Think of a 2-digit number. Add those 2 digits together. Now subtract that number from your original. Remember that number. Now, I'm going to show you 90 symbols. Remember your number and pick the symbol that corresponds with your number. And the image you have selected is the Eye of Horus.
Well, did Alexander read your mind? He read my mind. He got me. Oh, he's got me. That, of course, was, if you like it, give us a little thumbs up. That, of course, was brought back to, Alexander was brought back to life by my good friend and buddy and very talented artist, Joe Silkie. Hey, Martin, nice to see you have joined us. Thank you for joining us, and it's okay. Martin says he was a little bit late, but that's okay. I hope you were in time to get Alexander to read your mind. Anyway, thank you for coming, and hey, you know, magic is one of those things. Magic can make you laugh. Magic can make you cry. Magic can make you be full of wonder and amazement. And it can also make you scream. So today we have a little bit of what we like to call Yes, we have some cruel magic to show you. It's actually, I'm not sure if it's a magic trick or it's a prank, or maybe it's both. You be the judge.
Wow!
This, of course, is the split man illusion. A wonderful illusion that definitely drives a stake in one's heart. Here's another. Now, this is, when is a zombie a zombie? Yes, that's a little zombie. Now, I'm not exactly sure how this guy created this effect, but boy, oh boy. Can you imagine that chasing you down the street? There she goes, running away. Well, here's another one.
When the door opens, it's going to obscure their view, and this is going to give me the opportunity to quietly run across and hide behind a sledge. The door then will be closed by a remote control.
Not quite so scary, but certainly ugly. Look at the expression on this gal's face. What? What? Am I seeing things? What the? I better go see my doctor. Now, here's one. Now, this is genuinely cruel.
It's okay.
My back.
And you pull slightly out, and we're gonna have to straighten her back. So. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4.
That is truly a gruesome trick. But this one is my favorite. And as a kid's magician, as a family entertainer, this is one that I'm just dying to have the opportunity to do myself one day. Look at those kids. Oh, don't you just want to do that? You just want to do that. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed that. That was kind of fun. So of course, we have another segment in our show that we'd like to do from week to week. And we're going to start it right now. See if you can answer the question.
Who's the cutie? Who?
That's right. It's time for Who's the Cutie. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know which one I'm talking about. The one on the left or the one on the right. No, he's not looking in a mirror. That's what I thought it was at first. But, and this is a clue, Your cutie this week is an identical twin. Look at that. An identical twin. Amazing. Now, I wonder if he can tell which one he is. I know as I look back at the pictures of my daughters who are identical twins, I can't tell when from those old pictures which one is which. So it'll be interesting to find out from this cutie who he is. Now, if you think you know who this cutie is, oh, by the way, let me give you another hint. First hint, identical twin. Second hint is he's not a U.S. citizen, and he's actually born. I guess no, he lived for many years on another continent, and now he's a North American resident. So that's all the clues I'm going to give you. But now I'm going to let this picture vanish and show you what you will win if you can type in his name in the comments section before the end of the show. You will win this amazingly cool trophy. That's right, you can win this cool trophy. All you have to do is tell us who that cutie is. Now, Martin, I don't think you even know who this cutie is. Martin generally provides the cuties for me every week, but this week we went outside of our usual method and came up with a cutie of our own. So if you think you know who the cutie is, well then please write it down. Martin, this is your chance to win. See, now you couldn't win in the past because you provided it. You provided the cutie, so this is your chance to win. Hey, it's my turn to do a little bit of magic before I introduce our main feature of the show, our guest today. So I'm going to do a little bit of magic for you. We shot this the other night, and I'm going to share it with you now. Well, I finally got to the dentist for my annual cleaning. I like to go for my annual cleaning because it's the only time I go to the dentist and I get something from him other than a bill. I get a little goodie bag, and inside the goodie bag are some good things. There's always a toothbrush in there. There's usually a tongue cleaner, and there's this stuff, which is, of course, dental floss. I like dental floss. I use dental floss, but I get a little frustrated sometimes when you get to the end of the roll. You don't know it until you go to pull out something you think is going to be about this big, and it turns out to be a tiny little piece like that. I used to throw those little pieces away, but not anymore. Now, I save them until I get just the right number, and then I put them back together again. Oh, I know. Put them back together. What? Watch, I'll show you what I mean. I'll just break off a few pieces, and I'll be able to show you what I mean about putting them together again. I think one more should just about be good enough for this demonstration. Watch, what I do is I take a bunch of them and I roll them into a tiny little ball, just like this. You can see it becomes a tiny little ball, just like that. See? Yeah. Then I take that little ball and I just try and stick it on to one of the threads. That's on there. Sometimes it falls off. There it is. Okay, now, what? Oh, well, you can't do it right away. If you do it right away, you're just going to be in separate pieces again. You have to wait. You have to wait a little bit. That's about it. That's about all you have to wait, and then you should be able to just pull both ends. The dental floss is restored, and you can clean your teeth. Thank you. Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of magic. Yeah, I did get a chance to go to the dentist, and I'm thrilled. And it was, I think, the first time I don't have to go for a follow-up visit. Woo! Yay me! Yay me! Anyway, now I'm really thrilled. I'm really thrilled because I'm going to get a chance to talk to a friend of mine, and I am just so pleased to have him here. And I'm going to introduce him. No, I'm not going to introduce him. I'm going to let somebody else introduce him. Here we go.
Watch carefully right here.
Here he is, Randy Shine.
Well, hi there, Randy.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I am wonderful. It is so good to see your smiling face this morning. How are you? Good?
Doing wonderful, my
Great.
friend. Wonderful. It's good to see you. It's been a while since we last saw each other in person.
It has been. It has been a long time, and I can't wait until we get the day that we can do that again. Because for those of you who don't know it, Randy came to play at the Parlor of Mystery, and it was a fantastic night. We had a great time, and we got a chance to chat a little bit and see some fantastic magic. So how are you doing? How are you holding up while we have this pandemic?
Well, like everyone else, as I say, hey, when if you want to stay in business, you have to change with business. You either adapt or die, or adapt or thrive. And so I chose to thrive, and I'm performing virtual shows like a lot of magicians across the world are doing, and they've been pretty good so far. And it's also been an opportunity to work on some other projects, magic related, that I always wanted to work on. So I have time to devote to that and develop those projects, materials, and effects.
That's great. That's great. It has been quite a this whole pandemic thing and not being able to get out in front of an audience has been a challenge for so many of us. You're doing virtual shows now. Did it come natural right away? Did you find it a little bit stumble?
If anyone tells you that it came naturally to them, I think they're a liar. Except for those who are YouTubers. But no, it is a learning curve. It really is, because like I said, like I've always, like I tell other individuals who are interested in doing virtual shows, I'll break it down. There's three pillars to it, and that is the setting, which deals with the lighting. Then the other thing is technology. What type of technology you're going to use? Are you going to stream, Zoom, or other types of technology you may use, eCam, or the type of camera? And then it's the effects that you choose. So all three of those things are important into having a successful virtual show. So you need to have all three of those things in place. And so it's a learning curve with that, because as magicians, we think we got the tricks, but I like to say 80% of the tricks that you perform live will not necessarily work virtually.
Yeah, you put those three things together. Two out of the three, well, actually 2.5 out of those three are things that we weren't really comfortable with beforehand. Exactly. Yeah, so it's been a learning curve for a lot of us. I know just getting the equipment that's necessary in order to put out a good product is a challenge. So.
Yes.
Hey, you sent me some pictures, in which I love to look at pictures, and I want to share some of them with the audience right now. So I'm just going to jump ahead and let's take a look at some of those pictures, and you can tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, good.
Now this I know is, obviously you're not performing. This is a promo shot, and it's just a wonderful picture. And I think you told me that it was done by the same fellow who did these three promo shots. Is that correct?
Oh, well, not necessarily.
Oh, okay. Two different photographers?
Two different photographers. They're my favorite photographers. One, his name is Stevie Chris. He's based out of Philadelphia. Those are the photos with my hand on my chin and my hand over my face. Stevie Chris, he does all types of conceptual photography. The other two photos is my main go-to photographer, Zamani Feelings, based out of Philadelphia. Years ago, before I even thought about becoming a professional magician, Zamani and I worked for this same nonprofit organization. I decided to become a professional magician. He decided to become a professional photographer. He actually does photography for the NFL and the NCAA.
Oh my!
Yeah, so he's really an accomplished photographer here locally in Philadelphia, and we are friends. And so anytime I need something, I'm like, hey, can you do some promo videos for me?
Yeah.
Photos for me. Yeah.
Well, those pictures are just great, and I can see why you would go back to him, because he's a fantastic photographer. Let me take a look at the next picture. I think this is what's going on here? You look like you're a little bit of a younger man.
Yes. This is years ago. what most people do not know about me, I started off performing in the streets of Philadelphia, and this is a shot of me performing at a festival called Adunde. Adunde is an African festival that takes place every year in Philadelphia. Actually, it's the oldest African festival in the country, and so I just went down there. At that time, every year I would go down there and I'll just stand in the middle of the street and start performing. And someone captured this shot and sent it to me years ago. So this is one of my favorite shots because it reminds me when I first started out in the streets performing for people.
Yeah. Now, were you one of the guys that was interested in magic when you were a little boy?
Oh no.
Okay, so you have a different story then. You have a different story.
Different story. We'll talk about that story, but I'll get to that story.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm going to move on then, and let's take a look at another picture. This is a performance of some sort.
Yes, the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia. That's our. It's like a science museum. That's what it is.
Uh-huh.
And they were having an event that's centered around video games. And they hired me to come in and perform for the exclusive gala soft opening for the event. And so that's just me doing a corporate show. So the picture before, you saw me performing on the street. Now you see how I graduated to doing some bigger things in Philadelphia and beyond.
Now, Randy, you do you do corporate work, and I'm sure you don't perform on the street anymore. Although when the pandemic's over, we may all have to start over.
Yeah.
What other kind of magic do you do? Obviously, you do corporate shows, but
corporate, colleges, and cruise ships. The 3 C's.
Okay, colleges and cruise ships. Okay, corporate, colleges, and cruise ships.
This is at a college.
What school? Do you remember?
Southwest University, I believe that's in Texas. It's in Texas. I know it's in Texas. I think it's Southwest University, something like that, or Southern something. But I definitely know it's in Texas.
Yeah, is that a grind? The college circuit? I know you move all over the country when you're doing the college circuit.
Yes, it is a grind. You spend more time on the road than on stage when you're performing in the college market. But it's rewarding. It's fun. It has it's just like any other genre of magic. It's really different and unique. It's highly competitive, and you dealing with college students. You never know what you're going to get. No, seriously, you never know in terms of the students, in terms of the culture of the college. Sometimes you will be performing in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're performing in the cafeteria. One time I actually was performing in a hallway because the room that they had reserved, it was needed by the provost of the university at the last minute. So they had to move everything. They couldn't find another space. So they moved me into the hallway and had the students come in, as many students as possible, to watch me perform in a hallway. And that goes back to my earlier days performing on the streets. So now I had to take that knowledge and that experience and apply that to performing in that hallway when I had something different planned in terms of the room that they had me in. That photo you just showed. Now, I like to do some pre-show. So the students were waiting to get into the auditorium. And so I went out there and just to warm up the crowd, I just started performing for them. And as you can see how the crowd started gathering around me, watching me perform. And I like to do that when I can, just to give them a little warm up and know what to expect before the actual show starts on stage.
That's funny that you mentioned that because that's something that I found that I wind up doing occasionally as well. If I'm early to a gig, it gets some of the attendees, especially I do a lot of family shows, so it gets some of the adults on your side before the show because they think it's going to be just a kid's magician that you just do.
Right.
Run Rabbit Run or something. But
Right.
you know, if you can demonstrate that you have some chops, then maybe they have a little bit of interest. Maybe they'll watch the show, and they become on your side. So I know that once you do that, they're more anxious to see you perform.
Right. And there's two other secrets to that.
Go ahead.
Number one, I get to vet who I'm going to bring up on stage because I get to see how they're going to react. So I'm looking for that face when I'm on stage. But when you're doing private and family shows, what that also communicates to the adults in there, they're like, oh, I could hire him to do an adult event.
Yep.
So there's some science to this in doing that. And I know some magicians prefer not to. That's fine, but it's a science to why I do it. I choose to do it.
And now I just love the expression on your face in this picture.
Yes. This is at an event in New York City. It's a place called the House of Yes. I did that this year right before the pandemic. This is a wonderful, weird, artsy place. My friend Patrick Terry from New York, he kind of facilitates and coordinates the acts and the whole event. He asked me, did I want to be a part of it? It is wonderful.
Where is it in New York City?
Oh, no, it's in Brooklyn, actually.
Oh, it's in Brooklyn. Okay.
It's in Brooklyn. It's in Brooklyn, New York. I don't know if it's monthly or weekly. I think it's monthly. They have a variety of different acts. You name it, you'll see it. You'll see burlesque. You'll see magicians, comedians, other types of dancers, poets, jugglers, fire eaters. It's this wonderful place where you have people from the arts world just come together, and they're there.
So it's not just magic.
No, it's not just magic.
Okay. And what's it called?
It's called the House of Yes.
The House of Yes. Okay, we'll have to look for that. They're probably closed down like every other thing
Yes.
at the moment, but we'll have to look for that later on because that looks like something we'll want to participate in or at least go and see and cheer on. Now, what's with these young ladies? They're all dressed very formally.
These young ladies, this is at President Obama's first inauguration.
Whoa. You got to perform at the inauguration. That is
place. It's one of my proudest moments in my career.
I should think so.
Yes, and you know what? Come on, that was a phenomenal evening, as you know.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, of course, everyone's trying to get to the man. I didn't have an opportunity to get to the man. But the interesting thing is, as you're coming in, I have my little close-up case, and they're going through everything.
Oh, I bet.
They want to know what this is for. And as a magician, we're like, well, as you know, I'm the higher entertainment. People are here to verify that I'm you have someone there escorting you, letting you know who you're part of the entertainment,
right?
Not a guest and everything. And they just, what is this for? What is this for? They took a deck of cards and they're just going through all of them. I'm like, come on.
Hope you didn't have it stacked.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, okay, you're going through all of these cards, all 52 cards. Is there something that I don't know? And with that, what I mean by that, is it possible that it's possible to put something in a thin layer of cards? That's what I'm thinking, because I don't have that technology accessible to me, but I would like to have it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Now, did you just perform at one of the events? Because I know that they always have inaugurations. They have several events.
Right. I was just at one of the events. However, I performed at both of his inaugurations.
Both of them. Oh man, that must have been such a gas. And of course, all the dignitaries that were there that you get to interact with and hobnob with. Another friend of mine used to perform at I guess it was the Easter egg roll. He used to go to the Easter egg roll for years, and he loved to do that. So, but that must have been the greatest experience.
Right.
And is this more of the same? Because they look very...
No, this is just another corporate event that I performed in Philadelphia. This is an exclusive club. They were having a gala. And as I said, my market is the 3 C's: corporate, colleges, and cruise ships. And this is just me performing for a bunch of people at this exclusive club with a bunch of movers and shakers here in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Hang out and hobnob and negotiate deals.
Yeah, okay. Cocktail hours are so much fun to perform at.
Mhm.
I always enjoy that because it's only a couple of people that you're entertaining at a certain time, and you get to really connect with an individual. And a lot of the magic, of course, takes place in their hands, which makes it more.
Yeah.
Now this looks like it's a school of some sort. I recognize the the paint scheme on the wall.
Yes. This is at a school now. Something that I unwillingly started to get into is performing and speaking. And it wasn't something that I pursued.
Oh, okay.
People see me perform and they heard my story and they say, I think you will be great to come and speak. So this was last year, before school officially opened, they had orientation for the teachers.
Uh-huh.
So they asked me to come in, not just to perform, but to speak to the teachers.
Oh, so
And
the young
so-
lady here is a teacher. She's not a
She's a teacher.
student. Okay.
She's a teacher. So that's what this is. In their school, I was just speaking about, I have this speech called Planting Seeds for educators. And I use magic as a metaphor for that.
Okay. Planting seeds.
Yes, planting seeds. Because
Makes
I believe
sense.
teachers are planting seeds in children.
Children. Yeah.
And they will never know when that seed is going to grow. And they may see it grow, or someone else will come along and water it. Someone else will come over and give it sunshine. 20 years down the line, you see that student, and you're like, oh, I remember that student. That student was really difficult to deal with. But then you're like, hey, how you doing? And student like, hey, you know what? I'm the vice president of this company. I started my own nonprofit. I did this, and you were part of that growth in me. And that's rewarding for teachers to hear, but they also need to understand that they may not see the fruits of their labor until somewhere down the line. They may not see it immediately.
Randy, how long did it take you to develop that talk?
Not long.
Not long.
I'll tell you why. But that goes back to how I got into magic. And we'll talk about that a little
Okay,
later on.
all right. Well, we'll hold on to that because it's probably a picture that will stimulate a little talk there. Now, I put, one of these two pictures. One of them is from Monday Night Magic, which of course is the theater in New York City that so many of us are familiar with, and the picture on the right is, of course, the Parlor of Mystery where you performed a little while ago. And what's interesting about Monday Night Magic is, of course, we had Peter Samuelson on our show that we had a little discussion with just a few weeks back, and that's a great venue that's been around a long time,
Right.
and good for you. You got to perform there. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm gonna make sure that they put me on. Maybe when they don't have an audience because they have to have every other row out, they'll invite me. But
The reason why I like these pictures is for the magicians who are watching. There's this informal network of magic venues across the country. Much like comedians have these comedy clubs that they go through and they travel to and perform, like the Funny Bone, and there's a couple other ones throughout the country. Well, over the past, I would say like 20 years, there are a lot of magic venues throughout the country that as a magician, you just could go from town to town, city to city, performing at these different magic venues. I think it's a wonderful thing, this little network. You have your place, the Parlor of Mystery. You come down a little bit further, or you go up a little bit more. You have the one in Boston. You come down, you have Monday Night Magic. You come to Philadelphia, you have Smoke and Mirrors. You go a little bit further south, you have Dickens Parlor Theater. You got the one in Indianapolis run by Taylor Martin, Indie Monthly Magic. You then got Chicago Magic Lounge. So there's this circuit, and there's a lot more that I.
Oh yeah.
But there's this circuit, and if you get plugged in, it's great to go in these towns. The other thing that I find that's really good is this: if I'm doing I'm performing at a college in Indianapolis, I will reach out to Taylor Martin and say, "Hey Taylor, I'm here. I will be here on this date. Do you have a spot for me to come in and perform? I could come in a day early or stay a day later to perform at your spot." So now, as a magician, I'm getting two for the price of one.
Sure,
Just
sure.
fly out there. I'm performing at the college, and I can perform at this little club, Magic Club. So I think it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, and they're fun venues too, because
Oh yeah,
it's mostly
fun.
just parlors. They're
Right.
small, and it's much more intimate than a big stage performance. I
And
know.
we get to play with other magicians.
Yeah, yeah, I'm performing for the magicians oftentimes because we're all fans of magic too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now this had to be another one of those highlights in your life,
Yes.
performing life, and this is of course Penn and Teller's Fool Us. So, tell me what was the experience? Now you told me that this was the first season in the U.S., but the host was the host from the English show.
Correct.
I didn't realize that he did the first season in the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
Tell me what this experience was like.
Oh my gosh. Do I have the words to describe that experience? When they reached out to me and said that they were interested in having me on the show, I had to submit a few tricks to see, just to get them a variety and see my style. And I was fortunate enough to be selected to go on the show. Yes, I performed in big theaters. You do that in colleges. Cruise ships are definitely big. But when you have this huge professional production, lights, cameras, audience, and everything works like clockwork, there's no breathing time.
Wow.
You need to be prepared. You definitely need to be prepared. And things happen so quick. It's a little pressure, but as they say, pressure creates diamonds, and it's a wonderful experience. One of the things I would tell anyone, if you have the opportunity, go do that show. Go try to get on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, because it's a learning experience on how a big production TV show works. But then also, you can use what you learn and apply it to your career. You really can. And you can use that also to, if you work it right, to help further your career. Some people, I should say, got on the show and they were expecting their phone just to ring off the hook, and it never happened. And it's because once you're on that show and it's seen throughout the country, if not the world, because it's posted on YouTube, you use that in your EPK in order to get other shows. You have to work that. You have to use that. So there's a lot of value in getting on television, whether it's local, state, or national. It's a lot of value. And this is just thinking from the business aspect
Sure.
of a magician. Because we are, not only we're performers, but if you're doing this part-time or full-time, you also are an entrepreneur, so you have to think like a business person.
Well, you didn't look not even the slightest bit under pressure in the video. You look like you were cool as a cucumber. And I think if they go to your website, they can see that performance. Am I
Yes,
right?
they can.
Yeah,
You can see
yeah.
the
That's where I saw it. Okay. Yeah, it was. And were Penn and Teller gracious hosts?
Oh, they're wonderful. Yeah, yes, very gracious, very gracious. If you haven't met them, you should meet them. They really are. The one thing I like about them is after their live shows, they're in Vegas or if they're on tours, which is rare now, they come out in the lobby and they shake hands and take pictures with everyone. And you don't see a lot of stars do that.
No,
So they really are appreciative of people who are coming out to their shows. And I think that is great. That's a lesson that we all should learn. I should take from them.
Yeah, they're great. They are great performers. This looks like an egg bag routine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the egg bag is one of my favorite effects I like to perform. This is at another venue, the Chicago Magic Lounge in Chicago. And I just like this because I love that reaction on that woman's face. It's one of my favorite effects. That's why I have it in here.
Yeah. Now, how big is the Chicago Magic Lounge? I have never been there. I haven't been to Chicago, and gosh, I hate to say it, but it's probably 25 or 30 years since I've been in Chicago. Is it? I know that's a very popular venue. Yes,
and you know what? It's a popular venue outside of the magic community. The Chicago Magic Lounge was the #1 late night spot in Chicago.
Not just for magic.
Not just magic.
Okay.
Lay people come there to see magic. It's a beautiful place. I think it's intimate, but it holds, I think, around don't get me wrong, I want to say anywhere between 100 to 200. I know that's a big gap, but it's so intimate, but they get a lot of people in there, and there's really no bad angles. I mean, you could sit up on a balcony and you could see the card clearly on a table. It was specifically designed for magic and making sure that there's no bad angle
Yeah.
in that thing.
That's what they did in Smoke and Mirrors too. They made the theater so that you could see everything, which is
Yes.
which is really super nice.
Mhm.
Let me flip to another picture here. Okay, I've been looking at this picture and I haven't asked you yet because I wanted to. I'm dying to know. But were you a wrestler at one time? What the heck's with that?
Well, I wrestled in high school. I've always been a professional wrestling fan. I call myself a self-proclaimed historian, connoisseur of professional wrestling. I can tell you anything about WWE wrestling, the history from Vince McMahon to Vince McMahon's father. I can tell you about the territories, Lucha Libre, which is a Mexican wrestling, Japanese wrestling, strong style, which is a style of wrestling in Japan. I'm a big wrestling fan, and I always said I was born at the wrong time because when my interest in wrestling, and if you wanted to become a professional wrestler, you really had to know someone who was in the industry. But now there are wrestling schools that you could find at the drop of a dime. If I was younger, I would have been a professional wrestler at this time instead of a magician.
No kidding! Wow.
Yeah.
And so what's with the belt?
All right, so a friend of mine who's also a fan of wrestling, he's not a magician, he made me that belt.
Oh.
And on the belt, it's engraved the man, the myth, the magician, Rand Shine. It has my logo on the center, and the side plates is the club's heart, spades, and diamonds. So I like to go around saying I'm the people's champ. I walk up, and if you see me at a magic convention, more than likely I will have that belt hanging around my shoulder.
Oh, really? Good for you. Good for you. Hey, every time I think about professional wrestling, it's funny. I can't help but think of my grandmother. She was a little Italian woman, and she just loved wrestling. And I remember her favorite was Bruno San Martino.
Martino, yes. Here's something. Some of the people who are watching, magicians may not know this. Max Maven is a big fan of wrestling.
Oh, I did not know that. That's okay.
The last DVD that he put out is called Kayfabe. That's a wrestling term.
Oh, what's the term? Say it again.
Kayfabe. It's spelled Kayfabe, but it's pronounced Kayfabe.
Kayfabe. Okay.
Yes, it's a wrestling term, and there are some similarities between wrestling and magic. Without going into too much detail, we're both creating an illusion.
That's a fact.
That's
question.
That is the main thing. But there's some other things that go on in there. Having a character.
Uh-huh.
A good wrestler has a character.
Sure, of course.
And then a script. When wrestlers get on the microphone and they're talking, and I'm going to hit you in the head with this chair. That's a script. So there's a lot of parallels between the two that people don't actually realize, and that's part of the reason why I'm a big fan of wrestling, and of course I'm a magician.
Of course, and the belt is a wonderful treat. And it looks handsome. I can't wait to see it up close.
Yeah, this is just at another college, and the story behind this is, and this is truly unfortunate. There were some magicians who didn't attend the college that showed up. I have no problem with that. So afterwards, we're talking, and as magicians do, and someone said, "Oh, I really like your book test." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Here, take a look at it." And I said, "All right, I gotta, pack up some things." Turned around, they were gone with my book test.
Ooh.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Some of those can get quite expensive too.
$400.
Well, it must have been the mother.
Yes. Unfortunate, but it happened. So I was really upset, but What can you do?
Well, I know what you can do if you're still looking for one, you know.
Ah, okay. Okay.
I couldn't help myself, Randy. I couldn't help myself. Let's go. Let's go to the next shot. Now, what is this? This looks just like it was a show poster.
Oh, yes, this is something that I've been doing. I think I'm coming up on my 14th performance of this. It's called The Heart and Soul of Magic. And it's something I came up with in 2001. And it's a magic show that features an entire cast of African-American magicians. We have one juggler in there. Of course, you have to throw a juggler in there.
Hey, they always get the biggest applause, don't they?
Exactly. But it started off when I was attending magic conventions, and I didn't see that many African-American magicians there. And I said, I know that there are more out there. I just need to find them. And so over the years, you connect with other African-American magicians. And I said, it would be so cool to do a show just featuring African-American magicians. And so that's The Heart and Soul of Magic. And I think that photo was the last one we did. Yes, it was the last one. It's January 25th, wasn't it?
Yeah, January 25th. So that was this year, 2020?
Yes, this year, January 25th in North Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Randy, why do you think there seems in magic to be fewer African American magicians than the general population?
Right.
It just seems. What do you think that's from? Why do you think that is?
We don't have enough time, but
Okay,
I will
give me it in a nutshell. But why do you think it is? I mean, because I'm sure there's a whole lot of different reasons. But what would be the main reason you think?
I would say I would say two things:
Mm-hmm.
exposure, and access.
Access.
Because as a kid, I never knew anything about magic. I never even seen a magician as a kid.
Okay.
And the other thing is cultural religious beliefs.
Oh, interesting.
So a combination of both of those. And there's some other things that come into play. And the reason why I say exposure, I mean, if you go back, the ring and string routine, you thread a finger ring on a string and do the cross and vanishes. Well, I'll give you a good example. That was invented by a gentleman named Emil Clifton, who was African American.
Okay, I did not know.
So he registered by mail to attend a magic convention, a major magic convention.
Mm-hmm.
When he showed up, they saw that he was an African American. They denied him access.
How many?
He was also a Tuskegee Airman. So
was he really?
Yes. So he fought for his country. And so when I talk about access, that's what I mean, or exposure. How can you gain exposure to something if you're denied that? And so that was, part of the unfortunate part of our history of magicians in the magic community. And so if you've never seen something, how could you be it or aspire to go into that profession or hobby or whatever? So that's just a tip of the iceberg. There's other stories and examples that I could talk about that exposure. The religious cultural part is, that is evil. That is, you're dealing with the spirits without knowing that, nah. Now, I could get into that conversation because I'm like, okay, that's not necessarily true. And when it's funny, like, well, the Bible said you shouldn't dabble in sorcery. I'm like, oh, you don't want to go down there. And the reason why you don't want to go down there, I tell them, I'm like, well, my father's a pastor. My father has a
Your father's a pastor?
Yes. And so I said, now, if you want to talk about the translation of the Bible and what that means, we could talk about that, and you're going to find out that you're wrong. So what I'm doing, it's okay. It's okay. Do you question when you go to a play and you see Peter Pan flying? No, it's a suspension of disbelief. So that's all you're doing when you're watching a magic perform. But it's that cultural aspect. And then not just with, and it doesn't necessarily have to be religious in any form of religion, whether it's Islam, Christianity, or whatever. But it's also this cultural thing that there are people out here who could do some things supernaturally. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not. So it's that type of thing.
Right. I've come to experience some of that, people saying things like, oh, you're the devil or the demon or something like that. And I was, I thought it was a joke, but they were serious. So
I
it
was
is,
thrown
some
out
people
of
have that. Yeah.
I was thrown out of an event that I was hired to perform for a mind reading trick I did.
For
They
what kind
said,
of trick was it?
uh-huh,
What did you say again? What kind of trick?
a mind reading
Oh,
trick.
a mind reading trick. Oh,
Yes, because the response was, everything you did prior to that, we understand. We don't know how it was done. We're not trying to figure it out, but we know there's tricks. But when you read that person's mind, that's not tricks.
okay.
That's something else.
That's
And so they couldn't make the distinction between. So it's funny. It's funny to me.
It is.
It's funny.
Now, now, of course, this is a wonderful fellow magician that's on the stoop there with you, Francis Minotti, and
Yeah.
he's a pal of yours, correct?
Yes, Francis and I have been friends since college. So people often ask me, how did I get started in magic? Did I get started when I was a kid? No, I got started in magic when I was in graduate school at Penn State with Francis Minotti. He was an undergrad. I was a graduate student at Penn State. Ben Salinas, Brian Fauché, Scott Sullivan, we all formed a magic club at Penn State. And Francis and I, we've been friends since then, close friends. I spoke to him just a couple days ago. The funny thing about the Magic Club that we formed at Penn State, Francis is what I call an evil genius.
He is a genius.
What he did was he convinced the university to give us funds to go to magic conventions and buy magic books and supplies.
That's pretty creative.
I don't know how. He had this idea. He said, I could pull it off. I'm going to write this letter and I'm going to tell them that we're a club. And we got registered as an official club on campus. And then after that, Francis worked his magic. And we were just getting all types of supplies and going to magic conventions on the university's dime. And this is us, of course, much years later. We did a performance at Penn State. On the left is Francis Minotti, me, the Nittany Lion, Ben Salinas, and Brian Fauché, the original founders of the club. The only person missing is Scott Sullivan.
Now, you said you were a graduate student at Penn at the time, and what were you studying?
I was studying health education research. And
health education.
Research, yes, health education research, the research side of that. After I got my degree, I moved to South Africa. And I was down there for a year doing research at a university down there. Also, while I was down there, I found out about the College of Magic in South Africa. It's this beautiful nonprofit organization. And when I was down there, they invited me. They found out that I did magic, so they invited me to be a guest lecturer there. So I lectured there and worked at the real university while I was down there. Came back, started working at the University of Pennsylvania in the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics doing research. And at the same time, I was working on my PhD at Drexel University in Public Health. And then shortly after that, I decided, no, I don't want to do any of this. I want to become a professional magician. And so that's my story.
You can't get rid of that background though, because you must really be following the news then with this
Yes.
with this pandemic and how it's spreading around the world, and how it's so unbelievably uncontrolled, it seems, here in the U.S., whereas all the other countries seem to have been able to bring the slope down, while we're going in totally the wrong directions. It must boggle the mind for you with your medical background there.
Yeah, I literally can't get rid of it. Even though I've been a professional magician for over 16 years, I left that world. My wife has a PhD in public health, and she's on the front line.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yes, she's doing the front line dealing. So I literally can't get rid of it. She comes home from work.
So even if you turned off the TV, it's not gonna help you.
Exactly. So I really can't get rid of this at all. What's going on?
I hope I have a picture here of your time in South Africa. But before we get there, what's this about?
Okay, all right. So this all loops back. So when we're talking about before we get to this, when we're talking about me teaching at schools, I mean speaking at schools, that's where the background comes from because I'm used to being in front of an audience talking.
Sure.
Right, the picture on the left goes back to the picture with me with the belt. He's a professional wrestler named Big E Langston.
Okay.
But he's a professional wrestler at WWE. I ran into him at an airport. The picture on the right was when I was performing at the South African National Arts Festival in Grahamstown.
Got it.
So I've been to South Africa 8 times.
8? Wow.
8. And one of those times I was performing at the South African National Arts Festival, which is it's like a month-long festival on a college campus in Grahamstown. And it is wonderful. I like to say, people are familiar with Fringe festivals here.
Sure.
And we know the granddaddy of them all is the
Edinburgh, yeah.
In
Scotland. Yeah.
I would say this is probably second to that. The South African. That's how huge it is.
How many weeks is it?
It's like 4 weeks. 4 weeks.
4 weeks. That's a long period, yeah.
I don't know if they changed it since then, but it was 4 weeks when I was down there, and they bring literally entertainers from all around the world. All around the world.
And what's this now?
I did a tour of Japan performing on military bases. And I was at one of the bases, and I just finished my show, and it was really sweltering hot. I was tired, did the show. This was at a school, actually, not at a military base. It was at a school. And so I went to get something to drink behind the stage area, and I heard all this screaming. And when I looked up, it was all these kids running towards me. I was like, what the heck is going on? And so one of the teachers said, oh, they just want your autograph and take pictures. So they went and got me a table, got me a chair, a couple bottles of water. And I just sat there. Literally, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. For around an hour and 15 minutes signing autographs.
Now, you were performing on the bases?
Yes, bases and schools. So the military has this thing called the Military Month of the Child. And so through my agent, that's how I got connected with that. And they had me performing in military bases in Japan, Guam, and South Korea.
There's a fellow, Michael Applegate. I think he may even be on.
He used to do that, yes.
Yeah, and he was actually. I think he saw you perform in Japan there. Yeah, I think he mentioned that the other night. I got to see him on the line with us. So how long were you in Japan? How long was that tour?
That was 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you said you were in South Africa how many times?
8 times I've been to South
8 times. Wow.
Yes.
So
and I plan on going back next year. Actually, I just did something for them virtually. They had the 40th anniversary of the College of Magic down there. And they had performers all over the world. They had Guy Hollingsworth, Paul Wilson, Chris Capehart, myself, I think Jade. And we just did a virtual performance and talk in celebration of their 40th anniversary.
Yeah, and you taught there as well.
Yes.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Now, this is not you. This is
no, it's not me. So this goes back to how I got into magic.
Okay, this is Hiawatha. I recognize him because I've seen him perform, and he performed the one on the hand like nobody else did. What is that? The little and
so in college, I knew nothing about magic.
Oh, okay. So you did not even know about magic in college?
I mean, I've seen a magic.
Okay, yeah. But it was not your thing.
Didn't know anything about technique, nothing. So I was TA in the class. Brian Fauché, who was in one of those earlier photos, came to me after class and showed me a magic trick. Then a couple classes later, he said, hey, we're forming a club. And that's where, and we're meeting on Tuesday. So I went to the meeting, and that's where I met Francis, Ben, and the rest of the
Sure.
guys. So Brian attended Tannen's Magic Camp when he was younger, before he came to college.
Okay.
And
That's
so
a story. Yeah.
Brian said, "Hey, Randy, stop by." He gave me a call. He said, "Randy, stop by my room. I got some magic magazines that you can look at." Okay. He said, "Do you know a guy named Hiawatha?" I was like, "Hiya who?" He said, "You don't even know your own people?" So he passed me that magazine. I see this picture of an African-American man dressed in African garb with a African walking stick. And I was like, oh my gosh. And going back to planting seeds, that planted the seed in my mind, in my that, hey, I could do this too, because I see someone that looks like me who's doing it. And as the old saying goes, if you can see it, you can believe it, you can be it. And so that was a pivotal part of me planting that seed in my mind, even though it wasn't until years later that I decided to make that decision to become a professional magician. But I had a visual foundation that it is possible. And that goes back to what we said earlier about exposure.
Yep.
If you don't see it, if you don't know about it,
Okay. Makes good sense.
How can you ever pursue it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy, thank you. It's been such a great treat for me to talk with you. But of course, you know, the name of this show is Trick or Treat. So have you got a little trick to share with us, or a treat?
Yeah, I got a little quick trick. Can we get the big screen so what you see?
Let me flip you over to the big screen. There you go.
Okay, Mike. This is going to take place at the fingertips. The magic is going to take place at the fingertips in 3, 2, 1 second.
Ooh.
Right there. There's a little thimble there. Now, as you know, Mike, I can take this thimble, squeeze, blow, and it completely vanishes. But then it just appears right underneath here. Now, it takes 2 seconds for that thimble to travel from this side of my body and come out this side of my body. 2 seconds to go from this side of my body and come out this side of my body. 1 second to go from here to there. And if you miss that, we can send it back. But it takes 3 seconds, only 3 seconds, for me to toss this thimble in the air and land right here on my fingers. 3, 2, 1. And we get all these right here.
Ooh, how sweet is that? Oh my, that was beautiful, Randy. That was a real treat and a trick. That was beautiful. That was really nice. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for the great time we've had chatting. I really enjoyed that, and I can't wait until we can do it face to face without the technology in front of us. So let me thank you again for spending time with me today, and I hope to see you again soon. So. Ciao for now.
Take care. Thanks.
Well, wasn't that fun? I just want to show you that if you do want to get in touch with Randy, whoops, that's Randy there. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong one. That's so long, Randy. You can get in touch with Randy. This is his social media presence. He's got a website. He's got, I guess that's Instagram, whatever it is. You can get in touch with him. I know that he'd love to hear from you. If you saw the show today, he'd love to hear that you had a great time meeting him and listening to our chat. So please do send him a little hello. Hey, I gotta ask, did anybody guess what the fake news?
Factor fake news. Factor fake news. Factor fake news.
So that is the fact of fake news statement. The Society of American Magicians is the oldest society in the world. Is that fact, or is it fake news?
Story soprano. It's a friggin' fact. A friggin' fact.
Of course, that's not the real Tony Soprano. That is John Santo, the impressionist, imitating it. But it is a fact, and it's a fact. The Society of American Magicians is the oldest magic society in the world. It was founded in 1902 in New York City at the Martinkas Magic Shop with only 24 members. So it's if you got that right, good for you. And now, of course, and I didn't see anyone take any guesses, but the question is, who's the cutie? Do we know? Does anybody know? Nobody guessed, so nobody's going to win the trophy, but here is the answer. It's Paul Ramhani, yes. I did not know he was a twin. We're going to talk about that next week because he is our guest next week on Trick or Treat. So you wanna join us. The clue I gave you that I didn't mention was this picture is going to vanish. Of course, he is the editor, publisher, and creator of Vanish magazine. So we'll chat about that, and we'll chat about his new venture, which is Vanish TV, I guess it's Vanish TV. So I think he hasn't even run the first issue yet, but I saw the promo, and it looks like it's going to be a great streaming show. So you want to join us next week to see that. As I said, nobody got the trophy. Maybe next week, but. Come watch us next week, and maybe you'll get another chance. Hey, if you like the show today, give us a little thumbs up. We appreciate that. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. This way you'll get notified when we have something new going up, and it'll be great to know that we're connecting with you. So that's the end of the show. As I said, let's thank our guest, Randy Shine. Fantastic. Send him a little love. Our impressionist, John Santo. Of course, Alexander, created by Joe Silkie. That's great. Next week, we have Paul Ramhani from Vanish magazine, a wonderful magician who I think is living in British Columbia now. We'll find out all about that. So, see you next week. Bye for now.